Yes, that's a very, I would say, atypical, unlike what people can think, position of the Pope Francis on this issue. But for that, we have to back up a little and to see what was before. Actually, if you look at the whole international system as you know it, it was built, I think, of Woodrow Wilson's first movement to create a sort of cooperation of nations to avoid First World War. That was supposedly the war that finished all wars, and it didn't happen. So there is always at the core of our international system this understanding that we need to cooperate, we need to avoid conflicts as much as possible based on a mutual understanding. As we know, the first initiative of Woodrow Wilson didn't go very far, but it was the proto-organization of the United Nations as we know it today. And until today, the United Nations is based on this idea that their mission is to avoid war, or at least to diminish the conditions that will lead to violent conflicts. Have they been successful? This is a debate for another maybe, session. But what I'm trying to say here is that the whole international organizations and multiplication of NGOs as we know it has been based on this idea of global engagement, but it's secular. What the Pope Francis is bringing is something very innovative, actually, which is the role of religious tradition in building this culture of encounter and not relying on what is usually the traditional expected international actor, which is the state. So Pope Francis is not attached to any state or any particular national agenda, because one of the reasons why the UN didn't succeed very efficiently or very strikingly is because at the end it's an addition of nation state and national interest, and you see it really in the different position in any conflicts on the international scene. But the Pope Francis is not limited by this national or nation state agenda. And in this regard, that's a big difference. And he's also talking about humanity. He's not talking about citizens. He's not talking about nationals. And he is also promoting an idea that is looking at humankind beyond any kind of denominational approach or parochial approach, even in religion, which is something that is also innovative, because of course there have been other religions and there are still other religious initiatives going on internationally, but most of the time they happen from a particular standpoint, meaning a particular denomination or a particular organization is trying to overcome all these limitations. And that's quite powerful. And having looked for a long time at religion and international politics, I can see the resonance of this position with young people of different faith everywhere. They are ready to listen to that, even if they are not Catholic. And for me, having been an observer of what is the role of religion in politics, that is quite fascinating, if I may say so. I would say that the encounter for me is not the ultimate goal. The encounter is a first step, but it doesn't solve anything. You can encounter, it can even be by coincidence or by complete chance that you may encounter someone or another culture. But what is at stake for me is how do you communicate during and after the encounter? What kind of communication are you able to install or create with this other group or person or culture that you have come across? And that's the most challenging. And that's something I hope the project will be able to provide responses. The encounter is really the minimal step, or even, I would say, it can be even a coincidence. What we need to think of is how do we communicate and benefit from the encounter. And that's where, from not only my personal scholarship, but my personal upbringing. I mean, I have been at the crossroads of always different religious traditions, different cultures, different languages. And what I have learned is the best way to benefit from it is to be able to develop what the anthropologists call a dialogical approach, meaning you are who you are with all your specificities and also limits, and you are able to understand the other without losing yourself. And that's why anthropologists, when they go, to the deep end, they talk about this dialogical approach, meaning how much of it can I devote time and attention to some group which is not mine without losing myself in it. That's a big taboo of anthropologists about going native, they call that. And that's something that we can bring in this discussion or approach of encounters. But again, encounters is very thin. The dialogical approach to the other is much more deeper, and it needs some kind of reflection to go in a way that benefits the parties involved without one losing itself. There is always this idea that if I go too far, I lose who I am. My whole work is about negotiating these differences. I am a woman, I'm not Muslim, and I have spent a lot of my time with religious Muslim men. So there is, and unlike what people think, I have not always, I have not always been accepted. There is a time of acclimatation, there is a time of building trust, and what I think is key and what convinces the other, even in an academic enterprise or a sort of survey framework, is when you can convince, or when the other is convinced that you are here to bring knowledge or to try to understand, and not coming with what they call an hidden agenda, of something else. And that's something also that comes in the discussion, in the communication, and also on how you convey or communicate about this encounter is key in this regard. It cannot just be, we are looking and understanding. We have to bring the voices of the people with whom we are interacting in the whole assessment of it. And sometimes some not only scholars, but also some other religious or cultural actors don't do that. And that's the danger here, right there. Not to be able to bring in also the voices or the position of the people or the group that you were encountering. And that's a challenge in itself. And again, there is a method here that I think we can discuss in this global initiative of the cultural encounters. I think that that's a perfect moment. Actually, I would say that the pandemic has opened what I call a window of opportunity for the positioning of religious actors, ideas, organizations internationally. And that's why I think not only the Pope Francis, but the Catholic Church has been a pioneer in these works. You know, before that, you had the discussion by previous popes about the financial crisis, about the, and then there was a discussion on the immigration, refugees, climate change. So all these issues are already framed as global repertoires that can mobilize local or international initiatives, and that's something I hope this project of cultural encounter can facilitate. For me, it's not so much the content. The content is brought and carried by the people who do the work. Our job here would be to create a framework to make this multiple initiative not only visible but understood. The big issue is when religious actors, ideas, organizations appear, they have always you know, the handicap of being suspected of something, you know, again, this hidden agenda I was mentioning before. And our job, our work would be to dissipate this suspicion and to make sure that there is a clear, smooth understanding between other actors. The point is not to say that religious actors are doing everything good. The point is to bring them in ongoing initiatives that until now have not taken them seriously, either on climate change or on refugee crisis or other global issues. And I think it's a shame when we see the multiplicity of action and mobilization of religious actors everywhere on all these issues. But when it comes to positing the question globally, they tend to disappear, you know? And that's why the taking Pope Francis' posture as the starting point or the building block to make a broader reflection or position on the positive role of religion. For me, this is key, and that's why I'm 100% behind this project. But it cannot just remain a Catholic project. It has really to be a way to demonstrate the positive role of religion internationally. And the method of Pope Francis is very good. It has to be framed in a way that convinces also non-religious actors. Right. And of course, religious actors of other faiths. But as I said, if I look at the young generation in other religious groups, the interest is already there. So this would be easier, I would say, to do.